Welcome back to Go Figure. Today we're on lesson 59 of Saxon Algebra Half, Proportions and Fractions. Please give a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks. Here's a quick warm-up problem. Let's just go ahead and do this one together. We're solving for y. We want to use cross multiplication here. So we're multiplying the numerator of one fraction by the denominator of the other one and setting them equal. So 5y would equal 12, and then we need to divide both sides of our equation by 5 to isolate y. Y is going to equal 12/5. All right, our learning objectives today are to solve conditional proportions that have fractions in them. So, proportions with fractions. We want to use the same method of solving conditional proportions that we learned about in lesson 54. So if you need a refresher, you can always go back to that lesson. When they contain fractions or mixed numbers. First, we're going to cross multiply, and then we'll divide or multiply as required to complete the solution. So let's look at some examples. So here we have fractions on both sides of our equation. So I can still cross multiply if I cross multiply this numerator by this denominator and set it equal to this denominator times this numerator. So let's go ahead and do that. So 1/4 times, or 1/3, equals 4/7 times y. Okay, and then we can simplify on both sides of our equation. So this is going to be 1/12 equals 4/7 y. And then to get y by itself, to solve for y, we need to multiply this by the reciprocal. If we multiply 4/7 by 7/4, that will cancel out and we'll just be left with y. And then what we do to one side of our equation, we need to do to the other to keep it balanced. So we'll multiply 1/12 by 7/4 as well. And there's no cancellation that we can do here, so that's just going to be 7/48 equals, and like we said, the 4/7 cancels out the 7/4, and we just have y here. So y equals 7/48. All right, this one we want to solve for x. So we're going to cross multiply. So we have x times 1/8. I'm going to put 1/8 x equals 2/3 times 2/5. Then we can simplify. So 1/8 x equals 4/15. And then to isolate x, to solve for x, we need to multiply this side of our equation by 8/1, multiply by the reciprocal. And then what we do to one side, we do to the other to keep it balanced. These will cancel out, and we'll just be left with x equals, and I don't see any cancellation that we can do here. So 4 times 8 is 32. 32. 15 times 1 is 15. So x equals 32/15. Go ahead and pause the video and work on these 4 practice problems. When you have your answers, press play and check your solutions. All right, first one we're going to cross multiply. So 3/2 x equals 1/5 times 1/4. Then we'll simplify. 3/2 x equals 1 times 1 in the numerator, 5 times 4 in our denominator. And then we need to multiply by the reciprocal on the left side of our equation. And then we'll multiply on the right side by 2 over 3. So that way we're left with x equals, and there is cancellation we can do here. So we'll factor out a 2 from there, and from here we get 10. And then we can multiply 1 over 30. X equals 1/30. Next problem. When we cross multiply, we'll get 1/6 y equals 2/3 times 1/5. And it doesn't matter what order you do these in. If you wanted to do 2/3 times 1/5 on this side and the y times 1/6 on this side, it's totally fine. You're still going to come up with the same answer. So whatever works for you is all right. All right, so let's simplify this. We have 1/6 y equals 2 times 1 is 2 over 3 times 5 is 15. And then we're going to multiply by 6 over 1 here to cancel out that fraction. Do the same thing to the other side of the equation. Then we're left with y equals 2 times 6 is 12. Actually, there's some cancellation that we can do. We can factor out a 3 from both the 15 and the 6. So let's factor out a 3. We're left with 2 here, and then we're left with 5. That just makes it easier, smaller numbers, and we don't have to simplify later. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then over 5 times 1. So y equals 4/5. If we hadn't canceled first, we would have got 12 over 15, which then you should have noticed that you could factor out a 3 at that point. All right, next we have cross multiply 1/2 x equals 1/8 times 2. And 2 is the same as 2 over 1, so let's put that in there just to keep things simple. And then we can simplify this, so 1/2 x. And 1/8 times 2 over 1, we can factor out a 2 here, so that's 1, and that's 4. So we're left with 1 over 4. And then we can multiply by the reciprocal to get x by itself. And what we do to one side, we need to do to the other. So we'll multiply that by 2 over 1. And we can cancel, factor out a 2 here, factor out a 2 here. So then we are left with 1/2. X equals 1/2. I'll just circle that because got a little messy there. And lastly, we have 1/3 times 7. And I'm just going to put 7 over 1 equals 1/5 x. And then let's simplify. So this makes that 7 over 3 equals 1/5 times x. And to get x by itself, we need to multiply this by the reciprocal of 1/5, so 5 over 1. What we do to one side, we need to do to the other. And then we can simplify. 5 times 7 is 35 over 3. And that's going to equal our 1/5 cancels our 5 over 1. So we're left with x. X equals 35 over 3. All right, that's all for today. So go ahead and do problem set 59. I have the problems listed out for you. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and post them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Like and subscribe. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.